Hey guys, Patrick here, and today I'm going to be answering a question that a lot of people have asked. Not me specifically, but a lot of people have been wondering about it. And it really spiked during the pandemic, and that is, will resistance bands get you jacked? For obvious reasons that resistance bands are a really good tool to basically have in your home at any time. They don't take up hardly any space. They don't actually weigh anything, so they're really easy to move around. They basically, a lot of people are like, can I just work out at home with resistance bands and nothing else? And the answer is yes, you can do that. You definitely can. But will it build as much muscle as, say, weights or something basically weights or something? In my experience, I would say yeah. Honestly, because I have been using resistance bands, to build my triceps. I've been using nothing but resistance bands for my tricep building recently, and my triceps have seen really good results from doing that. And basically, I think that what it comes down to is, resistance is resistance. Your body can't tell the difference between resistance bands or weights or anything like that. And so a lot of people will ask, well, why don't you see a lot of bodybuilders training with resistance bands? And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is just because, people like me prefer to use weights. You know what I mean? Obviously, I've only been using resistance bands for my triceps, but that's like a special case. For everything else, I pretty much use weights or weighted calisthenics, machines. It's fun to vary up training, basically. And then, why haven't we seen the results of people using resistance bands getting jacked? Well, it's because I'm not trying to sound mean here, but a lot of the people who use resistance bands are the people who are trying to take that half measure. You know what I mean? They don't want to go to the gym. They don't want to, actually put in that large amount of effort. And so they're like, well, I'll just use resistance bands and I'll stay at home. And what winds up happening a lot of time is that they don't use that, and that's not just with resistance bands. That's any home gym piece of equipment. A lot of the time, the only people who wind up using their home gyms are people who were gym rats. And then they're like, well, I don't like waiting for machines, or I like to have the option to stay at home and work out, or maybe, a fucking pandemic comes and closes every gym. Basically, the only people who wind up largely using their at-home gym equipment are people who were gym rats in the first place. And a lot of gym rats aren't going to be able to settle with just resistance bands. They're also going to want a pair of dumbbells. They're also going to want a bench. You know what I mean? They're going to want those things. So that's why a lot of people will be like, well, why haven't I seen a lot of people get jacked with just using resistance bands? And it's just because of the type of people who try and use that sort of shortcut aren't the type of people who are really that into the gym to begin with. You know what I mean? If you were that into the gym, again, you would find reasons to go to the gym, not reasons to stay away from it. And then lastly, resistance bands have a very different sort of way of progressing as opposed to other things like weights, where you just add more weight to the bar or you add more time under tension. With resistance bands, a little bit goes a long way. So you gotta just gripping the band a little bit higher makes it that much more difficult. So it's got a really different resistance curve that you kind of gotta adapt to. You can't just keep adding more weight or more bands, because that really throws the profile off. It's really not the same thing. So as a result, it's kind of harder to keep track of, because it's like, well, did I grab up this high last time? Do I grab higher this time? You know what I'm saying? Where exactly did I grab on the band last time? How the hell are you going to measure that? So it's a lot less precise than using weight or time under tension, which are things that are very easily you can very easily keep track of by counting the seconds in your head while doing the set, or you can again, just write down the numbers for the weights that you're using and try and use more reps, things along that nature. Whereas, again, resistance bands are very much have a different minutia to them. So, can resistance bands get you jacked? Absolutely, yes, they definitely can. But I wouldn't recommend them being the only tool in your arsenal, just because they're harder to keep track of, to progressively overload on. And on top of that, you know, you're just gonna want to vary things up so that you don't get bored. Because if you're just using the same tools day in and day out, you're just gonna get bored of them. You know, same thing if you only had a pair of dumbbells, you're gonna get bored of that eventually, and you're gonna want to use something else. You know, so there you go, guys. That has been my opinion on will resistance bands, only using resistance bands, get you jacked. Please let me know what you think about it down in the comments. I'm Patrick, and I'll see you next time.